Well, a very sad day here because we were just getting started. We were just finding our groove on these Wednesday weekly hits with our next guest from Canucks Conversation and Canucks Army. And that might be the last time he's introduced as such. The one and only Chris Faber, who was off to work for the Vancouver Canucks
Was it something we said
at the end of this
Did we
week.
chase you away from this?
Yeah.
Could we have
Was it
been
us?
better? Yes.
I was just saying, like, I think the chemistry was starting to click last week.
Yeah.
Last week felt like that was our best one, and I feel like it was just getting better from there. But no, nothing you said. I know the same thing that Dave was saying. He's like, "What did I do wrong?" And I was like, "Well, everything." But that's not the reason why I'm leaving.
Here,
See, Dave, your taskmaster ways.
I'll send you the
back.
PDF on all the things that you did wrong. But
I saw you tweeted the photo of the day you came and visited us back at our old radio studio, and I don't, frankly, Chris, I don't remember I remember you contributing to every show. Faber and Nanaimo was a constant in our inbox. I don't remember how the studio visit came up. And you said 9 months later you were at BCIT pursuing the dream. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was. That was the night to remember Jason Botchford, actually, at the sports bar, and I was there for the day. And you guys invited me to come in and see what the radio show was all about, because you guys were aware that I was coming to that night to remember Botch. And that was an incredible opportunity. I think I even had a pretty good little one-liner on you, Matt. And I was like, wow, yeah, this radio thing's fun. I like this.
Most do. Plenty of material. As many have noted over 12 years. Anyways, we're going to do the hit here, but first and foremost, Chris, we have been absolutely delighted to watch your rise in this industry. We thank you for the collaboration that we have had here, and we wish you continued success with the Vancouver Canucks. You're perfect for that gig, my dude.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a perfect spot for me. I just feel like it's exactly what I want to do. Since I've been doing this, all I wanted to do was make the fandom better for the people who want to follow the Vancouver Canucks. And what the Vancouver Canucks are giving me the opportunity to do here is exactly that. They don't really want to change too much of the way I do things, but I'm excited to see how we're moving forward here in this job. And yeah, you said it, like it feels like the perfect spot for what I want to do and how I want to contribute to making Canucks fans' lives better.
And obviously, you're not there yet, but do you have an idea? Like, you have been doing such a great job over the years of covering every facet of the organization from top to bottom. Do they still want you to keep the people abreast of what's happening with prospects and the Abbey Canucks and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, the amount of messages I've gotten from the folks in Abbotsford is it's ridiculous. Like, they're all like, "Oh no, like we're not going to see you out there." Like, no, I'm still going to be out in Abbotsford. I'm still going to be covering the Abbotsford team. The prospect pool is something we want to really dive into and make that something that's a regular feature at Canucks.com. And on top of that, we're going to be covering the team. But I think the interesting thing now is going to be, being able to deal with some people from the hockey ops group, whether it's development coaches or scouts overseas and these type of players that are actually on the ground. Like, let's see what Mikael Samuelsson actually is saying about Jonathan Lekkerimäki over in Sweden, and what are they actually on the ice working with to make improvements to this guy's game. So I think that part's really exciting for me to be able to continue to cover the prospects. We'll see about the 3 a.m. wake ups. Like, I'll probably still do a couple of them here and there, but it's not really part of my job requirement. But I'm kind of addicted to those.
You're too curious. You're too curious.
Well, and the other thing, Chris, is that you've brought these stories of a certain tone, which during a really dark period for the franchise, there's been a lot of losing, and yet here we are, 6-2-1 after the opening month, second place in the Pacific, and one of the top 6 hockey teams in the NHL by points percentage. What have you made of this? What have you made of this first month for the Canucks?
It's a great time to become a Vancouver Canuck, I'll tell you that. I mean, the month's been excellent. It's a great start for this team. And a lot of it, I think a lot of it came to show just yesterday in the way that they won that game, where they didn't play their best game. They didn't play to that structure. They didn't necessarily outplay the other team, I think, throughout the game, but they were just able to kind of carve out a win. And how often has it gone the other way for this Vancouver Canucks team over the recent memory of this team, where it's like, yeah, they have a lot of skill, but they weren't able to get over the top with a win and get 2 points that night. Yesterday felt like a lot of that skill came to show, but because of the backbone of the structure of this team and their ability to just limit those grade A chances, right? Like, think about last night's game. How many grade A chances were there against? Like, not a ton. Like, Demko was good at times when he needed to, and he kept them in the game. But a lot of the times in the past, in the recent memory here, the Vancouver Canucks, Demko would keep you in a game, But then it was like 3 5-alarm saves that he had to make in the third period. It's just, you can't stop all of those. And it just felt like yesterday was a little bit more under control. And there was certainly a change after the first 40 minutes for the final 20, right? Like that team came out in the third period and was like, okay, we're in this. Now let's take control to win this game. And it felt like Elias Pettersson was the leading cause there. I thought JT Miller had an excellent third period after what happened to him in the second period and all the penalty troubles that he had early on. So I was impressed the way that this team won yesterday, because that's not a type of win that we've seen in recent memory.
What did you think when Tocchet benched Miller?
I thought that it had to do something, I guess, with the unsportsmanlike conduct, right? I think that extra 2 minutes makes a big difference, and that's a difficult spot to be put in from a coach who, listen, JT Miller's been excellent this year, right? That line has been your matchup line throughout the season, and to be put into that spot, Rick Tocchet mentioned it, like they had a good talk after 20 minutes, or I guess it was after 40 minutes, and you know, both guys were in agreement. It's like, yeah, like maybe that needed to happen. And JT's talked a lot about being an emotional player, and I think there's times where that's really going to help him. And yesterday, I guess it was a little bit of a hurtful thing for the team with it being a 4-minute double minor, but the two came together, and that's like, I just think that relationship between Tocchet and Miller is going to be so beneficial for both of them, because Tocchet gets it. Like he gets the emotion that you have to have when you're playing this game at that type of level. And it just seems to be like, we've joked about it and called him the JT Miller whisperer, but like, I feel like that was an example of it yesterday. He goes right back out in the third period and he was excellent. And that's exactly what you want to see from JT Miller when he's riding on emotion, is a guy that can kind of steer that emotion in the right direction. And I felt like Rick Tocchet did that last night. Just an overall good handling of the situation. And he was honest about it, right? Like Tocchet came out in the media and was honest about why he benched JT Miller and why he played him like that in the third period and got right back to him. So I think being able to be a little bit transparent, like Canucks fans are smart. They know what's going on. They knew that JT Miller wasn't playing in the second period, and Rick Tocchet addressed it. So I think you have to give props to that. And I just think that this relationship, there'll be some rocky parts of this for sure, but I think right now you're seeing a lot of what's going on between that player and the coach, and it's at least going all in the right direction right now with those.
How he reacts over the next couple of games is going to be interesting, JT Miller. Like it was just a little sunburst, a little flare up here, and he's back to it. I mean, they're 6-2-1. There shouldn't be a ton to be upset about if you're JT Miller. And I thought that at 5-2-1, that's why we hadn't seen anything like that from JT Miller's, because, you know, he was just feeling good about the direction of the team. Well, they were still 5-2-1 in the middle part of the second period. He still couldn't, keep his emotions in check. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction is from JT Miller over the next few games.
Yeah, some of those calls were pretty. I mean, I can see why he was frustrated. The one where the player grabs his stick. I know that one came a little bit later in the game. And I guess the kind of back and forth action where it looked like he caught a little bit in the corner as well. And then, his stick got up, and then obviously kind of went from there with him a little bit more pushing and shoving. I guess that's where the unsportsmanlike conduct came from, because I didn't really see anything directed towards the ref. Like it felt like it was the stuff after the whistle of the penalty that gave him that extra 2 minutes. So that's the way that he's going to play. And I think it's like, it was something that Rick Tocchet said yesterday, and I don't have the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of like they have a quiet room, and that part helps. Like having JT Miller be the loud voice when you're in moments like that where emotion can lift your team. Like it's good to have the guy who has a big mouth, for a certain point for your NHL team, especially on a team that, it's a little bit of a quieter room, and the leaders, they're kind of figuring out how to become leaders in this league. And I think you can lean on that emotion a little bit, and kind of, if the team's behind it at least, and you're all pulling on the same rope in the same direction, like that is a helpful thing for this team moving forward. So I liked how it was handled yesterday, and I like just how Rick Tocchet explained it, right? Like I do think that he's, Stanchion had a really good article for us at Canucks Army the other day, but like Rick Tocchet is, if I know that the winning helps, but I think it's the way that they're winning is what's getting this fan base back on track with the Vancouver Canucks.
Are you worried about what a game against the lowly Sharks looks like? Because this to me is a bit of a trap game for this team. It's going like thunder. Oh, it's only the Sharks.
Tocchet said after the game, it's good to learn lessons and still win. And, the first thing I thought was, well, let's hope the lesson is learned and they're not too big for their britches against the still winless San Jose Sharks on Thursday,
who are sitting on 4 consecutive days off, the San Jose Sharks. So they're waiting for this. Like, this is the definition of a trap game, right? Like they haven't won a game this season. The Vancouver Canucks played them 3 times this month as well. So you would expect 6 points, right? Like this is a team that's I've seen some of the writings coming out of San Jose where it's just like, and even I think I saw a YouTube title the other day. It was like, the team I cover is embarrassing. Like, and it was just like seeing these things that are coming out of San Jose where it's like, yeah, this team's not great. The Canucks have to go in there. It's just everything is lining up for this to be a game that I think a lot of this is now on the coaches to have them ready for this, right? Like, you're going into a 7:30 game. It's one of those little one and done road trips too. So like it's a perfect storm to be a perfect trap game. So if the Canucks can go in there and get a win, like you're kind of expecting that, I think, but you're also expecting to know that trap games are difficult for teams, and the Canucks have struggled with that in recent memory as well. So, you know, I guess you'd be worried about if it's just some no-name backup playing for San Jose, right? Like, that would kind of be the ultimate recipe here for this to be a trap game. But for now, they should go in and beat the crap out of this team. They should. They're a better team on paper. They're a better team with their structure. They're a better team overall. So they got to go in there on Thursday and just play their game, and they'll get 2 points out of it.
While we're talking about schedule, can we trade Saturday and Monday, please? I can't wait to see the Oilers and the Canucks on Monday. I would rather that was the marquee game on a Saturday. I think the Oilers are going to be so pissed off.
That, yeah.
They're going to be so pissed off that the Canucks have beaten them twice this season, and they're struggling. I just want to get through San Jose and Dallas and get to that Oiler game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, on a Monday, right? Like, I guess that's a good start to the work week for everybody, and that'll create some fun things to talk about on Tuesday in your lunchroom. But yeah, I want that game to get going too. I mean, Saturday night you got Dallas in town, and I think it's going to depend a lot on what happens on Saturday night or Thursday night to see what Saturday is going to look like. And I mean, if this team keeps rolling right now with a 6-2-1 record, you go 10 games in, and that Saturday comes up, and you know you're 7-2-1. Like, I feel like the momentum at that point is almost like supporting itself in the fact that this team is playing so well. They're playing the style that they need to play to have this type of record. But now that they have the record, that's also backing up the work that they've done, whether it be showing up early, having a good training camp, all these type of things. Now it's like all the momentum's kind of blending together. And now you're just like, I think a lot of people are actually making the question, like, is this team legit, right? Like 10 games in, you could start to have the discussion. We're talking about, an eighth of the season in at that point. They're playing good. They've had a schedule where it hasn't been the easiest, right? Like, they've played some good teams or teams that you kind of were expecting to be good, in the Oilers with a couple of games against them. But I'm looking forward to that Monday game as well. Like, on home ice, you got the Oilers again. And if this team's continuing to be rolling, Canucks fans are probably going to have a lot of fun beating up on the Oilers on Monday if that's the way it goes.
Well, and hey, I'll have already won a season series against the Nashville Predators. Yeah. And of course, that's in the offing Monday against the Oilers as well. Chris, our poll question today, after the first month of the season here, who's on track for an award? Pettersson, Hughes, Demko, Tocchet. I think they're all candidates. So which one do you think is most likely 1 month in?
Yeah, 1 month in, I think right now you'd be talking a lot about Rick Tocchet, and I think that's, you mentioned it, you could talk about all four of these guys, right? I think that Pettersson and Hughes, the way that they're producing points kind of puts them above the rest. It's not like Demko's, at the top of the league for many of the goaltending stats, but you're seeing that with Pettersson and Hughes. I think they're both in the discussion, but no matter what, I thought if this Vancouver Canucks team made the playoffs, and we'll see, that's a long ways away from now, but if they end up making the playoffs, Rick Tocchet is immediately in the conversation. And it depends kind of where Pettersson and Hughes shake down with how their seasons go. But the way that they're operating right now, I look at nights last night where Elias Pettersson puts up a hat trick, and that's just, to me, a situation where a player showcases that they are elite. They're near the top of the league as one of the best players. To have a night like that, I was still surprised to see that was Elias Pettersson's first hat trick on home ice. But to do it on Halloween night and have the photographs come out, I saw the goat head that got thrown onto the ice during the hat trick. Like, that was a lot of fun. And just things like that. Like, those are the moments that I think a lot of people look back and remember. And maybe some of the Eastern media woke up and saw that in the morning and were like, oh, like, look at this Elias Pettersson hat trick. At least they note that down when they start to get to the point where they're voting on MVPs and situations like that. But I would go with Rick Tocchet being my one that I would guess right now, just because of the fact of this whole team has turned around. Yes, they're being led by Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, a lot of that, and they'll certainly be in the discussion if they continue to play like this. But if they're running and operating the way this team is and getting the production from the defense and bottom six and these type of things, like I think Rick Tocchet's the leading man.
And really, Tocchet's only got 15 guys to compete against.
I was just going to say, it is a much shallower pool to win the Jack Adams than it is to win a Norris or a Hart, for God's sakes, with all the great players. And I guess it's a shallower pool Vezina-wise as well, but needless to say, the profile of a non-playoff team being coached into the playoffs by somebody reasonably new, that tends to trend with voters. Okay, buddy, one last time with feeling here. Who's our prospect of the week?
All right. Well, this is good for our show as we close out here as well, because he'll join us tomorrow on this conversation. But Arshdeep Bains, and I'm not just saying that because he's on our show tomorrow. He is our prospect of the week. I do want to bring up his stats from the past 2 weeks here. So he's got 2 goals and 8 assists over his last 6 games. The guy is producing at a ridiculous rate right now. He is currently leading the AHL in points, but over the past week, he's got 2 goals and 5 assists over 4 AHL games. The 22-year-old kid out of Surrey has been ripping it up. Like I said, leading the AHL right now in points. Very impressive. It's impressive to lead the AHL in points, especially when you're a 22-year-old, right? Like we've seen Reed Boucher rip up this league. We've seen Sheldon Rempel rip up this league for this team. And I think it's different when it's a 22-year-old. Like
for sure.
I give a lot of props to what Bains is doing. Yuri Kulik is another guy out of Rochester in the AHL who's like, I think 19 years old. He was drafted just 1 year ago. And he's ripping it up, scoring a lot of goals. When you see a guy in that kind of 19 to 23 range scoring like this in the AHL, it just screams NHL potential to me, right? There's a difference between a guy who's 28 and doing this and a guy who's 22 and doing this. And with Arshdeep Bains, you watch the way that he's playing. And I always say this about AHL players. You can immediately tell when you watch 3 shifts of them in the AHL, they're ahead of the pace of play. Arshdeep Bains is that. He's now ahead of the pace of play, which is something that I don't think he was doing a ton last year. Like last year, he was making good passes and keeping up with the pace of play. This year, he's ahead of it. He's like the playmaking is still there. I think it's the best part of his game is how he passes the puck, whether it's in the offensive zone or breakouts in the defensive zone. All those things have been a strength of his. I think you could even see that when he was in the WHL, leading that league in scoring. But he's added the speed. Like he has added a step to his game. It's exactly what Ryan Johnson wanted from him when he talked to him heading into the offseason. He's added strength to that lower body, and it's showing up in spades. Like he's able to beat defenders now around the corner. It's brought a complete different kind of view to how he attacks now. And it's something that we didn't see last year. So adding that part to his game, that's what he needed to become an NHL player. I think we're going to see Arshdeep Bains in the NHL at some point this season. If the Canucks needed a call up right now, he's the guy. Like, and I don't think it's really close. Like if they need a forward, Sheldon Dries, he's scoring goals. It's great. He can play center. But if they need a forward right now at the NHL, Arshdeep Bains is the guy.
He's got a 3-point lead on the first non-Abbotsford, 2-point lead on Wilana, but that's a teammate. For the closest non-teammate to him is 3 points back him at this early point in the season. You know who else is having a very good year as a very young player in the AHL? Logan Stankoven, who could have been a Vancouver Canuck.
Yeah, there's several of those out there. But as Chris has chronicled, the prospect pipeline is getting better, and he'll continue to chronicle that amidst his duties with Canuck Sports Entertainment. You're in with Jeff tomorrow on Rinkwide Vancouver. Chris, thank you for this, and thank you for all the collaboration here over the last few months.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys. And like I said in the tweet, I appreciate everything you guys have done over the past 5 years, or I guess maybe 7 years if it includes reading my texts on air and these type of things. Like you guys have done a lot to support me joining my show in the early days as guests. You guys didn't have to do that. You took time out of your day to do that. And all the support you guys have shown over the years. I do really appreciate it. And I know a lot of people in this Vancouver market appreciate what you guys do and have done to support people that are trying to break into broadcasting. So
it's just very kind, Chris, but it's all you. All the best. Onwards and upwards, my man.
Thank you very much. One final thing, Blake, I got for you. One more Nikolai Goldobin piece before I head out. Currently, Goldie is on pace right now to break the KHL record for goals in a season. So I got to do a quick little article for Canucks Army on my way out. One of our boys there, Nikolai Goldobin.
Is he a European free agent this offseason? Can we bring him back and you reunite him with Kuzmenko, or unite him with Kuzmenko?
He's going to be back in the NHL. I doubt it's with the Vancouver.
There's no player to this date that has a higher goals for percentage as Elias Pettersson's line mate than Nikolai Goldobin. He has if you look at every that Pettersson has ever had, no higher goal for percentage than Nikolai Goldobin as his winger.
So what you're telling me is Blake new?
I guess so.
Gold. Thanks, Faber. Be well, buddy.
Happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day, Yellow Dog Squirrel Chaser Hazy Pale Ale.